Okay, folks, we're going to get started in just under a minute. Hey everybody, welcome to the 22nd edition of our Node Operator Community Call. I'm already running a little bit late, so I'm going to rush through this agenda as fast as possible so we can get to our action-packed content. First up, we have Sasha, who's going to give us the validator set updates for the previous month, as well as a really quick sneak peek at what some of you that are going to be live at DEF CON and hopefully be able to join us on November 14th are going to be learning about at Lido Connect. After that, we're going to have our customary Simple DVT segment with Will. Then we're going to have Dima, who's going to tell us about CSM coming to mainnet, hopefully, if all goes well, by the end of this week. Then a really quick intermission for all of you Galaxy OAT lovers. Then we're going to have Luca from Serenita Labs, who's going to tell us about Vero, a brand new validator client. And last but not least, Jonas from Bolt, who's going to tell us a little bit about the Bolt pre-confirmations protocol. All right, and with that said, Sasha, please take it away.
All right. Hey everyone, my name is Sasha. I'm a Lido contributor, and I'm here again kicking off the call with the updates related to the Lido node operator community over the past month, specifically October this time. So the first topic, and I again can switch slides. Okay, I can. The first topic for today is the relay stuff. So the list of vetted relays for mainnet has been updated. A little bit of context. So there is a committee, which is called the Relay Maintenance Committee, which is basically responsible for maintaining this list, like evaluating the new relays that applied for being included to this vetted list, as well as like reconsidering the relays that were included there before. So the committee reviewed the request from Titan Relay team, and they basically posted it on a forum like a while ago. And the proposal was to include, obviously, this relay to the vetted list, so the node operators can use this relay alongside with the other relays that they already use. So after some improvements made on the relay side and a monitoring period for this relay in terms of its performance, the committee made a decision to include the two relays, the filtering one and non-filtering one, in this vetted list. And additionally, the Eden network team announced that they are stopping operation of their relay, and that's why committee decided to basically remove it from the vetted list. So here you can see the list itself. It's for mainnet. We got some questions regarding how this list should be read, so especially from folks who are just about to join the Lido protocol node operator set using CSM. So the gist is operators can use only those relays that are on this vetted list, and must use at least some relays marked with this must use some tag. So the main call to action for node operators here is to set up their relay configurations according to this updated list. And if there is a relay that you use, or if you can or you won't use, which is not there in this list, you can basically ask the relay provider to get vetted by this committee, and for this they basically need just to I guess send a proposal to the research forum to be considered. So next up, snapshot votes. There are several ongoing snapshots, but I just want to draw your attention specifically to two of them, as they are the most interesting ones from the node operators community perspective, I guess. So the first one is about onboarding Bolt as a Lido Alliance member. That basically means that in case the vote passes, the Lido DAO will support Bolt as one of the pre-confirmation solutions. And this can start with testing it on Holesky by the node operators who are currently a part of a Lido node operator set. So the second vote is about integrating CSM into the decentralized validator vault. I'm not sure, but maybe we'll mention it a bit later during his presentation. But basically, the proposal aims to integrate the CSM into this vault alongside with the current DVT module. So again, what it means that in case vote passes, it will allow stake from the vault to flow into the community staking module, and the users of the vault will receive 80% of the DVT providers' incentives that are allocated to CSM node operators, but only for those who utilize DVT within the community staking module. So both votes are live till October 24th. So there are 2 days to vote if you haven't already. So next up, of course, community staking, the biggest thing today, because the on-chain vote to release CSM has just started. And as a preparation to this vote, not only to vote, but to mainnet itself, a lot of things has been done during October. And now we can see that mainnet, the 2 audits that are required for mainnet are finalized with no critical or high findings. The CSM contracts are deployed on mainnet. The documentation is updated and the widget is improved, and we continue improving it. And another important thing is that the early adoption list, Dima talked about it quite a lot during the last call, is finally formed. Just a quick reminder that the early adoption mechanism was basically designed to prevent the module being occupied by big node operators, allowing identified solo stakers from this list to join first, and also it gave them opportunity to provide only 1.5 ETH instead of 2.4 as it is required for everyone else. So I guess Dima later today will tell us more about it, because today is indeed a big day. So getting further, really quick, community lifeguards. I usually talk quite a lot about their progress, about their initiatives and so on, but today I'm just encouraging you to check out their post with the results of Q3, because this is really amazing. And I'm very impressed by the amount of initiative they're running and about the results achieved. So I will not stop here more, and I guess that's the last part, yeah. So I'm wrapping up my updates with our plans for Bangkok. Just want to walk you through them. So contributors, Lido contributors, and specifically here I am talking about only contributors of the Validator set value stream, will be at Staking Summit, so definitely stop by our booth there. At Dev Conflict, Dmitry will be having a hot debate, I guess, about vanilla solo staking versus liquid staking. I'll be speaking at ShiFi about our approaches on building CSM. And at DEF CON itself, there is going to be a workshop about CSM. And of course, the most important event according to my personal rating is Lido Connect, which is going to be a full day event with tons of different activities like talks, panels, and roundtables. And I already showed you the QR code that can give you an opportunity to claim your ticket, because tickets are not available for sale. So there are just 3 tickets available using this link, using this invite code. So be fast. And with that said, I am finishing my updates part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sasha. That's really, really great updates. And lots of interesting things, both currently in flight as well as coming up in November. For those of you listening to the stream, if you have a chance, check out the chat on the YouTube channel, as all of the links that Sasha was talking about are posted there. Next up, we have Will bringing us good tidings about Simple DBT and the Mellow DB Vault.
Everyone. So we will continue this month with further scaling the Simple DBT module and updates related to this. So kicking right in, we'll go to OBOL. So yeah, like the main message again this month is that clusters are scaling. When it comes to cohort 1, which is the initial 12 clusters that were live, they are still running 80 validators each. There will be a performance report of their latest about month and a half that'll be published this week. But this performance report will not include a proposal to raise key limits. That will come when the rest of the cohorts have sort of come to a point where they are at or near 80 validators each. So as a reminder, there are currently cohort 1, cohort 2 of both OBOL and SSV live. We're going to talk about cohort 3 for OBOL and SSV and where the status is shortly. In terms of the superclusters, so there are 5 OBOL and 5 SSV superclusters. And last week, the performance report finished the discussion period. So there's an easy track that will be created fairly soon to increase the key limits for these superclusters to 200 validators each. In terms of performance, uptime for the OBOL clusters was 99.91%. There was a block proposal success rate of 100%, and the average validator effectiveness was 98.54%. This is outperforming the Ethereum network validator effectiveness rating. So really, really good results, encouraging to see like larger number of validators come online quickly and continue to perform really well. And also to note, these superclusters that are running more validators also have solo stakers. They also have community stakers running validators with these professional node operators. And this is pretty cool. It's differentiated versus a lot of the other staking protocols out there. In terms of cohort 2, so there's 14 clusters within cohort 2, 13 of them, it should say 13, are running 20 validators, and they also have 20 additional keys that are now depositable after the easy track that was started last week was enacted yesterday. Vivacious Viper, some of you will remember, is that 14th cluster that had a replacement, and so they have 5 active keys, but they will have a performance report in the next 2 weeks, and that will be followed very quickly by the overall cohort 2 performance report. Both of those, assuming the performance looks good, are expected to have proposals to raise the key limits for those clusters. Cohort 3, so this is something we talked a fair bit about a lot on the last call, but since that time there has been a evaluation by the Lido node operator subgovernance group, and then a proposal to the DAO to onboard 10 additional clusters using OBOL's DBT technology as cohort 3. And so these 10 clusters will have now been accepted after the conclusion of the discussion period. And these 10 clusters will onboard 36 net new node operators to the protocol, and 22 of those are solo and community stakers. And it's a pretty cool thing, right? Because we're talking about onboarding 36 net new node operators. If you like fast or rewind a year ago, there was 37 Lido node operators in total. So this is the 5th onboarding round that has taken place with net new node operators, and it's really encouraging to see the continued growth. So overall, once these node operators are actually running validators over the next few weeks, there will be a total of 271 node operators using the Lido protocol to run validators. And my favorite stat about that is that over 140 of them are actually solo and community stakers. All right, so moving on to SSV, we now have cohort 1 that's running 40 validators each. They're in their performance monitoring period that actually just completed. And so they're in the process of registering and submitting an additional 40 keys. This is expected to be done in the next few days. So very likely that there will be a post to the forums in the Simple DBT proposal thread talking about the easy track that goes live to increase their validator count to 60 validators. And once those activate, then to 80 validators. Cohort 2 onboarding completed over the last few weeks. So they're in the midst of their initial performance monitoring period, currently running 5 validators per cluster. So next month, we'll probably have some more updates related to this. And then very similar to the Obol superclusters, the 5 SSV superclusters are also running 50 validators each. They are going through the process of registering keys to SSV network and submitting them to the Lido registry. So like similar to cohort 1, you can expect to see an easy track towards the end of this week. The performance results here were also really, really strong. Uptime of 99.99%, block proposal success rate, again, at 100%, and validator effectiveness of 98.41%, again, outperforming the network. So really, really cool. Testnet number 4, and this will turn into cohort number 3 for SSV, is underway with 25 clusters. Over 150 participants are active and participating at this point. All of the clusters except for one are running validators, and that last cluster is a bit of an exception. It's a group that's working together, and they aren't going to be included in the scope of the actual evaluation, so it's a bit separate. But all of these clusters now have at least 20 validators active, and they're in the process of all of them going to 100 validators per cluster. There's a few of these clusters that will increase their key limits to 400 validators, and that will be pretty interesting to see because the Allen fork took place on Holesky a few weeks ago. So the initial performance is in line. There was no clusters that went offline during the update, which was really encouraging. And SSV has started to notice and sort of report on some of the improvements to user-level hardware metrics, especially CPU utilization. There's a really great update in the SimpleDBT post on the Lido research forums by the SSV team there if you're interested in hearing more. All right, finally, just some quick updates on the distributed validator vault. So this is really continuing to drive faster adoption of DVT-based validators within the Lido protocol. Users stake ETH via the vault, they get wrap staked ETH rewards, and on top of that, they get Obol points, they get SSV points, and they get Mellow points. And so far, this has actually facilitated over 7,300 ETH staked to the protocol. That's equivalent to over 230 validators as of just a little bit ago. And that's over 10% of all of the validators within SimpleDBT. So this is real. It's making things faster in terms of the adoption for more solo and community stakers to run more validators. And from the user side, there's still a really nice boost to Obol points because there are still more Obol validators within the SimpleDBT module that are earning points every day than there is ETH within the vault. So if you haven't checked it out, would definitely encourage you to do so. You can see here that the TVL has increased, and it's actually almost at the limit. So it's just a few hundred ETH away. So definitely get involved while you can within this cap raise. But like as was initially said within the proposal, that cap is expected to go higher. So I think really exciting things to come here, just in terms of the vanilla SimpleDBT integration that's been taking place. But there's also a proposal that's live, as Sasha mentioned, to integrate the community staking module into the DVV. And this wouldn't have a major impact to users of the vault, except for adding incremental points, validators that utilize DVT within the CSM. So the main difference here is that rather than in SimpleDBT, where Vault users receive 90 of those points from SimpleDBT validators within the CSM module and the validator points that are generated from it, they would receive 80%. And that's because CSM users do put forward some ETH to participate in using CSM to run validators, and on top of that have to cover the SSV network fee and Obol contributions as well. So there's a nice balance here of encouraging people to use DVT, which has lots of benefits to resilience and key security when used with DKG, as well as like decentralization in general, if they're working with their friends and all using different clients and running out of different countries, etc. So would definitely encourage you to go check that out on Snapshot. It's live, and hopefully by the end of this week, we'll know that CSM is also incorporated into the vault, and users of the vault can be very, very excited to know that they're receiving points from the top DVT infrastructure providers in existence, in addition to wrap staked ETH. And on the other side of that, they're really driving the decentralization of the protocol. So that's it for this month. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Will. All right, Dima, you're up next. Tell us the good tidings about CSM.
Okay, sure. So today we are talking about CSM release, as you might have noticed. And the main news about the release is that CSM vote is currently live. Yes, it is real. It has been launched like just a couple hours ago. It already has more than 3 million LDO voted for, but this is just the beginning. So I highly encourage each and everyone watching, listening, or just holding LDO to scan the QR code or just go to votelido.fi and take a look at the latest vote, which is 180, and vote. And let's show each and everyone within the DeFi community that Lido DAO is not a bunch of wallets, not like 2-5 wallets, as some say, but is a huge community of people who are actually contributing, who are actually participating in governance, and who are actually supporting such an important milestones like CSM. And with that said, let me quickly drive you through the roadmap, through the path that CSM, including CSM team and everyone else involved, have passed through the recent years, I would say, and what are the milestones to go. So it definitely all started with the community staking manifesto, which not all of you might heard of, but I'll definitely tell you more. Then there was a community staking landscape, then community staking architecture, finally the development and the testnet, and here we are. We are close, so close to the mainnet. But the mainnet will have two phases. And the first one, or the first period, will be the early adoption period, during which only identified solo stakers, but not only from Ethereum network, but also from a Gnosis network, would be able to join CSM, as well as good performers from a testnet. So people who've probably never been validating either Ethereum or Gnosis before, but have demonstrated that they are capable of doing so. So all of these guys, you will be able to join CSM very, very soon. And then for sure, the permissionless mainnet would follow. But let's dive deeper into each and every of these milestones. So the first one is Community Staking Manifesto or Community Validation Manifesto. And as you can see on the screen, here is our product fairy, Sasha, who actually started work on CSM way before most of you might think. So most of you first heard of CSM in November 2023, but the actual work started way before, and there's the reason for it. The reason for it is very important because each time you want to build a product, you want to make something, you definitely need to do a thorough product research. You need to determine the pain points, you need to determine the growth points, and you need to finalize your goals, principles, and guidelines. And that's exactly what Sasha did with the Community Staking Manifesto. So I can confidently say that it was the first building block of a permissionless validation in Lido. So the next step was Community Staking Landscape. And this is probably the first document you've ever seen and you've ever heard of, CSM. And within this document, by that time, both me and the team, we already joined Sasha at this journey. And we came up with a set of relatively broad ideas on how these goals outlined in the Community Staking Manifesto might actually be achieved. What are how the market of the competitors look like? What solo stakers are looking for? What are the best solutions and approaches that are appealing and at the same time feasible from a technical and a product perspective? So that was a very thorough research. If you've never seen it, I highly encourage you to give it a read. It's a pretty good read, I would say. The next thing is CSM architecture. This is the first site, or not the first site, I mean, this is the first document where the exact architecture, the smart contract architecture of the upcoming community staking module was described in detail with all the principles, and many problems and peculiarities were tackled in this document to make sure that with the introduction of CSM, it would be first appealing and beautiful for community stakers from the user experience perspective, and at the same time, it would not compromise the robustness and the security of the Lido protocol. Because as you guys all know, Lido is by far the most secure and the most reliable protocol, at least according to the data observed. So with the introduction of CSM, one of the key points was not to compromise on security, not to compromise on robustness, and so on. And in this document, we described it all in February 2024. And after that, the development started. And I like to say, joke that this is where the real work started, but for sure, it's not true. However, during development, even though like some of the prototypes and code samples were definitely created way before February 2024, in February 2024, a real concentration on a development started, both smart contracts and UI and off-chain tools. And I would like to say that the approaches that Lido contributors use to develop something, the approaches to security, robustness, reliability, readability of the code, and so on, they all paid off. So what we ended up with is a very solid code base that managed to pass audits, 2 security audits from a top-tier auditors like Mixbytes and Aki, with 0 critical and 0 high findings, and a minimal amount of medium findings, all of which were either fixed or acknowledged, which is unseen for the projects of this size in the crypto industry. And the next step was definitely testnet. And here's just a quick numbers from the peak of a testnet, which was at the end of September. So in total, there were around 2,800 node operators, but for sure, not all of them were independent or individual. And after a thorough due diligence that helped us to detect so-called Sybils, we came up with a number that 370 node operators, or maybe slightly more, were indeed independent operators. And a lot of them were not in the initial early adoption list for the testnet, which means that they are brand new to Ethereum solo staking, which is absolutely amazing. With around 5K validators and 3 months of active testing, around 120 STE was generated as rewards, which is a very huge number given how low the APR on Holesky is. And after the testnet, more than 150 operators from the testnet were proposed for the mainnet early adoption because of their outstanding performance. And I'm really proud of the results of the testnet, and especially the number of independent node operators. I was really not expecting that. I was expecting something like 200, maybe like 200 plus something, but we ended up with almost 400, which is incredible. And finally, this is the point, this is the thing that we're gonna see soon in case the vote passes. And this is CSM on a mainnet within the early adoption period. And let me just quickly walk you through the main benefits and the main cool features of CSM. The first thing is definitely bond requirement. So for the early adoption members, for the first validators, they would need to deposit 1.5 ETH and then 1.3 ETH for each and every other validator. Within the permissionless mode, which would follow the early adoption period, they would start with 2.4 and then again 1.3. And this is by far one of the lowest capital requirements on the market. And given that no additional tokens, validator tickets, or stuff like that is required, it makes CSM the most compatible solution in terms of a bond. But okay, if you have a low bond, that's cool. And even Vitalik is currently talking about reducing the minimal requirement to 1 ETH. But what if you can run a validator using a very low bond, but your rewards are comparable to depositing your ETH into the liquid staking protocol like Lido? What if the difference in rewards is like 10%? It is so small. That's why in CSM, we are thinking about it, and the model, the economical model around CSM and the interactions between capital providers and node operators are created in a way that CSM node operators would get their rewards multiplier up to 2.4 or up to 2.3, depending on how you prefer to round it, which means that for each ETH you will deposit as a bond to run validators with CSM, you will get 2.3 times more APR compared to a solo staking, which is absolutely amazing. Combined with the EL and CL reward smoothing, including MEV, you would benefit from each and every juicy MEV block produced by any Lido validator, no matter was it your validator or was it professional validator or anything else. And the best thing, the thing that I like the most, the thing that been discussed a lot, especially in the Rocket Pool community, by the way, is the performance threshold. So to give you the idea of a performance threshold, it is very simple. You take the average net attestation effectiveness over the whole network, and then you subtract 5% from it, and you draw a line. And if your attestation effectiveness is above the line, no matter is it above by 0.001% or is it above 4%, no matter, you will still get this equalized, socialized rewards with this amazing reward multiplier. But if you are below the threshold, you will not get this multiplier, but you will still get rewards on your bond, which is 90% of traditional solo staking rewards. But the thing you should keep in mind that if you are doing vanilla solo staking, and if you are performing, let's say, if you're missing 10% of attestations, you will not only lose rewards for this 10% of missed attestations, but you will also be penalized at a value equal to around 2/3 of a missed attestation rewards, which means that in total, your rewards when solo staking and when performing at 90% efficiency would still be lower than CSM rewards, which is absolutely amazing, which makes CSM a perfect tool for you to get excellent reward multiplier if you are performing super cool, okay, and kinda okay, and still be safe and secure about your rewards, even in case of a severe issues with your validators. And on top of that all, definitely one of the best UX user experiences for node operators. I mean, with all these tools, bots, UI, simplicity of installation, and so on, I can talk ages about it. And the best thing is that this early adoption period, as well as the community staking module in general, is tailored specifically for community stakers. So we are not saying that we are just making something permissionless and then we don't care who would join. No, we do care. And that's why the early adoption period was proposed to the Lido DAO and was approved by the Lido DAO. And finally, CSM permissionless mainnet. There's no finalized date for permissionless mainnet, but I suppose that it would be activated somewhere in spring 2025, just to allow enough time for each and every community staker or identified solo staker to be able to join CSM without facing competition with professional operators or operators using delegated capital as a bond. And that would be the culmination of CSM, the final point when each and every community staker who was willing to join CSM would already be in. And at that time, the module will open the doors for each and everyone. You would not need to pass test nets, assessments, KYC, anything like that. You will be able to join permissionlessly and to run Ethereum validators permissionlessly at approximately the same cool conditions as for the early adoption members. And that's basically it. So please, in case the vote would pass, which also depends on you if you would vote or not. So please vote. And once you voted, make sure to check your early adoption eligibility using the QR code on the screen, get your notes prepared, and hopefully this Friday, early adopters, each and everyone, and I mean, the list consists of 20K addresses. This is enormous. So guys, there's plenty of opportunity for you if you've ever been validating or participating on CSM testnet to join CSM testnet. this Friday. Thank you so much for that, and that's it from my side.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Dima. Okay, we're going to have a quick Okay, Luca, whenever you're ready, please share your screen and get started.
Hi, everyone. I hope my screen is visible now. My name is Luca. I'm the CTO at Serenita, where we specialize in staking on Ethereum. I'm here today to tell you about Vero, which is a new validator client, and how it helps us at Serenita address the client diversity situation. We hope it can also help others in the ecosystem do the same thing. We'll start with a quick recap on client diversity and where Ethereum stands right now. Yeah, I suppose most of the people on this call already know why client diversity is important, so I'll be short. The client diversity is the idea of multiple clients implementing the same chain spec, which is encouraged on Ethereum. This is a lot better than everyone using the same client, because all of those different implementations by independent teams are going to be vulnerable to different attack vectors and different bugs. So as long as the clients used are diverse, you're gonna have a much more resilient network. So that's the main idea of client diversity. There's a lot more to read on this topic. If you're not that familiar with it, I would recommend going on to clientdiversity.org, or also reading the blog post that I linked at the bottom of this slide to become aware of the risks involved with running a client that is also used by a lot of the network. So let's move on to client diversity, what it means in Ethereum. There's basically two layers nowadays. We have multiple different clients on both of those layers. All of these are production-ready clients, which you can use, and they're mostly interchangeable with some minor feature differences. With all of these clients, Ethereum could, like in theory, already be in a very good situation, but client diversity only makes sense if the network uses all of them and uses them in roughly proportionately same manner. So it would look somewhat like this if all of the network, if it were distributed among all of the validators on the network. So this is kind of the ideal situation that Ethereum could be in right now, but reality is a little different. We know that some clients are used more than others. This is a screenshot from clientdiversity.org again, which shows that mainly Prism and Lighthouse are used by many validators, and the rest of the clients are used a little less. Well, maybe it's worth mentioning that Grandine is a new client, so it's not been around that long for usage to go up, but yeah. On the execution layer, the situation is a little different. It was very different a year ago when Geth likely had a supermajority on Ethereum. The situation has improved a lot over the last few months, with Nethermind growing in market share, and we are currently likely in the situation where there is no single client on the execution layer that would have a supermajority. So that's kind of good news, right? But is it enough? Is the fact that there is no longer a client with 2/3 of the network. Is that enough for us to just stop worrying about it? I'm kind of the opinion that that's not the case, and I think that there's multiple reasons for that. The first of those being that the client usage data is just not 100% reliable. We don't know how up to date it is. It could just change from day to day, just by a bigger operator switching clients, that sort of stuff. And this data is also not completely representative for multi-node setups, which we'll talk about a little later. The second reason is that 33% or anything over that is also still quite dangerous and problematic. If you don't know what I mean by that, just check out the Twitter post that I linked at the bottom of the slide for an example. Then there is the fact that two clients sharing the same kind of bug or the same kind of attack vulnerability could still get us over 33% and potentially stop the network from finalizing for a bit there. And then there's one more reason, which I feel like is kind of under discussed topic, but I wanted to mention it here. It's the different failover mechanisms that operators use. These failover mechanisms may also exhibit some kind of unexpected behavior during a network fork. So when clients disagree, they may look like they're falling out of sync, even though they're just following what they believe is the correct version of the chain. And yeah, if you have some kind of complicated failover mechanism which automatically switches the beacon node that is being used, it could actually, by mistake, like select the wrong one. It could like connect the validator clients to the wrongly behaving beacon node. So yeah, something similar to this one is a manual failover mechanism where a node operator notices or gets an alert that a beacon node is fallen out of sync, and they just decide to point the validator client at a different client implementation before they had the chance to do a proper investigation of what is actually going on. So these two things could actually contribute to a buggy version of the chain finalizing, even though not 66% of the network runs the buggy version of the client. Yeah, so as an operator, you ideally want to avoid attesting to the wrong version of the chain. And what are the approaches that you can use to do that? Avoiding client bugs is kind of has been discussed a lot, and the point is that you can't really avoid client bugs completely. They're going to happen. They're going to happen in complex pieces of software, and especially if it's like evolving all the time, like Ethereum is. So you have to just reduce the impact of the client bugs when they occur. The simplest way to do this is by spreading validators across multiple client or client combinations, like I show on this slide. And in case any of those clients now has a bug, only a subset of your validators is affected. So this approach works pretty well. It's easy, relatively easy to set up. It's good for the network, but the impact of client bugs can still be significant because, like in this example, about a third of your validators would go offline if any of those clients had a bug. One of the first of the more advanced approaches is using Vouch. It's a multi-node validator client which can combine the data and output from multiple beacon nodes, multiple clients, and it has something that is called the majority attestation strategy. Using this strategy, Vouch can continue performing its validator duties as long as a majority of beacon nodes agrees on the state of the chain. So with this example, if one of the clients had a bug, Vouch would just continue performing its validator duties as if nothing happened. One thing to point out with Vouch, and what we were concerned with last year when we were looking into these options, is that Vouch is used by a lot of professional node operators. I list this here as a pro, but also as a con. The reason for that being is if Vouch itself has some kind of bug, it could take down, like it could take offline your validators, and it could also take down all of those validators run by other professional node operators, and that could mean actually quite a large part of the network. So yeah, that could have some consequences. The next approach that I wanted to talk about is DVT. We'll go over SSV and OBOL just really quickly. Here, the point is that you basically split the validator among multiple locations, and those locations cooperate on performing its duties. This way, again, if you have a nice client diverse DVT cluster, the impact of any single client bug is going to be pretty minimal. So this is a good way to solve it. But the thing about DVT, vouch, and about DVT and vouch is that you need to perform some relatively complex operations with your validator keys. Where vouch requires their own key manager called Dirk. With the DVT solutions, you need to split the keys or generate them using a DKG. So this is, again, something very similar to SSV as OBOL's Karen solution. Basically, the same things apply. You still need to do all of those complex key operations if you want to switch to this kind of setup. So summing up, all of these more advanced approaches have one thing in common, and that is that they're just not easy to switch to if you're running traditional validator clients and maybe like Web3 signer infrastructure. And that comes with a downside. If you do need to actually switch back because one of those solutions has a bug, it's just not that simple. You will probably need to wait for a bug fix by one of those teams. So once we did all this research at Serenita last year, we basically wanted to see if we could get rid of the complexity associated with the keys and get most of the benefits at the same time. And yeah, that's when we started. That's when we decided to actually build our own validator client with a couple of design goals in mind. We wanted it to be multi-node, so we wanted it to combine the outputs of multiple clients, and that way know which chain to follow. We wanted to keep it simple. We wanted it to be secure. That's one of the very important things in this industry. We wanted it to be observable, so we know exactly what it's doing and when it's doing so. And we also wanted it to be compatible with all the different CL client implementations and the remote signing API, which is used by Web3 Signer. So from all of this, Vero was born. Vero is a multi-node validator client. It's pretty simple at less than 3,000 lines of source code. It's secure. It never touches any validator keys. It only has a couple of dependencies. It's highly observable. We'll get into that a little later. And it's compatible with all CL client implementations and Web3 Signer. So when it comes to a high-level overview of a typical node operations architecture, you can see the multiple different parts that go into it. Vero fits in right in the middle as basically a swap-in replacement for a traditional validator client. You can just swap any traditional validator client for a Vero, and it will keep working just like this. With the most important difference being that Vero is a multi-node validator client as opposed to the traditional validator clients, which only talk to one beacon node at a time. So let's focus on the left part of the picture here, which is Vero and the CL/EL clients. When you hook up Vero to a nice diverse combination of clients like I'm showing here, the benefit of using a multi-node validator client is obvious when one of those client pairs, say, has a bug or just goes down for some reason. In that case, Vero will be able to continue performing its duties as long as at least a majority of those connected beacon nodes agrees on the state of the chain. I mentioned observability as one of the design goals of Vero. Vero is observable through logs, which I feel like are very readable and easy to understand. Then there's metrics, There's also 2 Grafana dashboards that ship with Vero. You can find them in the same repository. They show you a lot of detail about what duties are being performed and at what point in time in the slot. And if you're looking for even further detail, Vero is also able to export tracing data. So this is an example of traces for a block proposal. So you can really see which part of the block proposal takes which amount of time. And in case you end up missing a block proposal or anything like that, you can check the tracing data and dig into it, dig into the reason why you failed to propose a block. Another very interesting feature that Vero has is its slashing detection. Vero listens to slashing events as they occur on the beacon chain, and it processes all of them in near real time. This way, it can react quickly to any slashing events. And what it does is basically, if it detects a slashing event has been triggered for any of its managed validators, it automatically stops performing all subsequent validator duties. So it shuts down automatically. You can see this in the logs. You can see this in the metrics. You'll notice this metric changes if your validator ends up getting slashed. And you can also see all duties stop being performed. Talking about performing, there's another similar thing that we were worried about, and that is performance. While it was never really one of the design goals for Vero to be the best performing validator client, we do, of course, want to be at least on par with the rest of the validator clients. We are currently running Vero on thousands of validators already. To be exact, 6,000 on the Holesky testnet and more than 17,000 validators on Gnosis chain. Through all of this, we've been able to find out that the performance is definitely sufficient. This is a screenshot from Rated Network. This is our performance over the last 30 days, and we are actually the top performer on Holesky. So yeah, I would say performance is sufficient. There are, every time you introduce a new piece of software into your infrastructure, I think you should kind of look into the risk of using that new piece of software. So here are some of the main risks you could be worried about when you would consider adding Vero to your stack. I'm happy to say that most of these risks are really minimal or even have been completely eliminated, like the slashing risk. Vero uses Web3 Signer, and Web3 Signer uses its own slashing protection database, which has been battle tested over the years. So that should be completely fine. Then there's the slashing detection feature that Vero has, which leads to an automatic shutdown. I think that also could be really useful once we get the max effective balance change with Pectra, where reacting quickly to any slashing incident will be even more important than it is now. You don't have to worry about validator key compromise because Vero never even gets close to any keys. Bugs, when it comes to bugs, we intentionally try to keep the code base as small as possible, combined with high test coverage and all of this testing. I'm pretty confident that there's no significant bugs at the moment, and we'll try to keep it that way. There's no risk of lock-in either because it's so simple to switch to and back away from Vero. And the only real risk I see at the moment is downtime. Vero has just not been has not been through as much battle testing as other validator clients. So yeah, but even if Vero does run into any kind of trouble, switching to a different validator client is like very easy. Something that I've been asked a couple of times is Vero for professionals only? It's not. It's very easy to set up for anyone. It does not actually require running against multiple beacon nodes. You can just run it against a single one. All you really need to start using Vero is for Web3 Signer to handle your case. That's it. So yeah, summing up, there's a lot of good things that can be said about Vero, not that many bad, in my opinion, in my very subjective opinion. but still, I would like to encourage any node operators to try it out. Yeah, what's next for Vero is we are adding support for the upcoming Vectra fork, and after that, we will be looking into other features to add. So if you end up trying Vero out and have any feature requests or any feedback, that would be welcome. On our side, we plan to progress towards this kind of setup where Vero is connected to multiple different client combinations, and that way make our infrastructure as resilient as possible to single client bugs. That's it from my side for today. These are some more links to help keep you up to date if you want to follow us or check out the repository. And I'll be sticking around the YouTube chat if you have any questions. So yeah, let me know.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. That was a really, really great presentation. Luca, I think there's a couple of questions actually, at least in Zoom's chat. So Jan and Sven, feel free to ask Luca while we have him.
Yeah, Luca, you said when it registers a slashing, it shuts down all the duties. So it shuts down all the duties for every key it manages. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
That's pretty good. Have you tested that on Holesky? Like, just try it out. Do like a double attestation, see what happens. Like how fast.
I haven't tested on Holesky, but I have tested on local devnets, and it's like really fast because it does this even before the attestation. Well, the slashing event is included into a block. So yeah, it's really as fast as it probably can be.
So if you're running, I don't know, 1,000 validators and you spin up a second instance with the same keys, like how many times would you get slashed before in the time it takes to register and shut down?
It kind of depends on how many validator keys you are able to get slashed within a single slot, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the limit, I think.
It's the single slot. That's as much as you can fit into that.
Yeah, because as soon as you publish a slashable attestation in that slot, it will get gossiped around the network, and both of the Vero instances that you're running will see those slashable slashing events, and they will both shut down before the next slot even starts. So yeah, I don't think you can get it any faster than that.
That's quite cool. Thanks. I think Jan has a question as well.
Yes, I wondered if you already have some empiric data, how many beacon nodes solo and community stakers could run Vero against before experiencing hardware limitations with their retail grade setups.
I don't have any specific numbers yeah, it's kind of hard to say because the different clients have like a little differing requirements in terms of hardware. Some are more demanding, some are less. But Vero itself has very little overhead as any validator client. They're quite minimal. If any home stakers would like to try it out, I would probably recommend just having like 2 separate machines, running 2 different client combinations, and then you can use Vero to basically cross-check them and always know that both client pairs agree on the state of the chain.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, I think that was it when it comes to questions. So you can always get in touch with me later.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Luca. I also see that Takeshi from Tane would love to see the slides. So if you're up for sharing them, either give them to us and we'll share them to him, or maybe you'd like to post them into the community staking channel on the Lido Discord, that would be great.
Okay, yeah, I think I can share them later. Yeah.
Super, thank you. All right, and last but not least, and sorry for once again going quite a bit over our initially intended 1 hour, folks. We have Jonas from Bolt.
Yep, I'm just gonna share slides. Let me know if that is visible.
Yep, it's visible.
Perfect. Okay, I'll try to keep it short. I'm Jonas, currently working on Bolt. And in this presentation, we wanted to do a quick update, primarily targeted at node operators since the last time we presented Bolt. So to recap, Bolt is a proposer commitments protocol that right now is primarily focusing on inclusion pre-confirmations. So in terms of agenda, we'll first go over what's new. Then we will discuss Bolt from a technical side for node operators. So primarily I'm talking about opting in the off-chain and on-chain infrastructure requirements. Then we'll talk about risks and rewards, open questions and research, and finally a quick Q&A if there is time for that, as well as a quick rundown of the purge proposal. All right, so what's new? We are currently in the middle of deploying on Holesky. As of today, we deployed our initial smart contracts on Holesky and are currently testing with our own Holesky validators to see if everything works correctly. What that entails is an initial registry for proposer discovery, eigenlayer and symbiotic integrations for collateral, a working challenger, although no slashing yet. We're working with the Titan team to get the constraints API, which is the slight modification needed in the PBS pipeline. We're working with them to get that integrated into the upstream Titan relay so that multiple relays can sort of offer pre-confirmations or at least be compatible with pre-confirmations. And we are working with auditors or preparing for auditors to audit both the on-chain and the off-chain components of Bolt. So yeah, Bolt for node operators. Let's start with the off-chain parts. So for a node operator, there isn't a whole lot that changes. This is a simplified setup of what a node operator is presumably running. So you have validator clients, a beacon node, and then the execution client, which is not depicted here. The red parts are the things that will change. So they will need to run a Bolt sidecar. They will also need to run a modified version of MEV Boost that is aware of constraints and that can communicate these commitments from users that are accepted by the Bolt sidecar into constraints and communicate them down to the relays and the builders so that they can build around them. The user communicates with the Bolt sidecar and they speak the language of commitments. We will provide various ways of running for node operators. So there will be a Docker Compose mode in which you will just launch a Docker Compose file that has everything set up and configured, including metrics, dashboards, etc. We'll also provide a way to run with commit boosts in which Bolt will be run as modules on top of commit boost for the parties that are interested in running that way. And finally, we'll provide a way to run in native mode, which is sort of advanced. If you're not happy with any of the provided options, you can always just run the binaries or compile them yourself and put them in systemd files or something like that. And yeah, again, on observability, we highly value that. So we'll include dashboards on resource usage, pre-confirmation metrics, revenue, etc. And I provided a link to the preliminary Holesky launch instructions for interested node operators to get a better idea of what is actually required from them to opt in. On the, a quick intermezzo on validator keys. So these are required for the authentication of constraints. We don't want anyone to be able to publish constraints to relays and builders that is not the validator in question. So there will be need of at least one signature from the validator keys. For security, we're using a different signing domain so that you don't sign any messages that are valid on the consensus BLS signing domain. And we're also providing a way to delegate to a different BLS key pair, so that you only have to sign once, and from that moment on, you'll publish that delegation to the relays, and they will know, okay, from now on, this key is actually going to be signing constraints. We're going to be compatible with remote signers, so Dirk and Web3 signer, as well as ERC2337 BLS key stores, which is the standard way of storing keys on your hard drive. Now, in terms of on-chain, we have deployed a Bolt validators contract for batch registering validators to signal participation in the Bolt protocol, as well as the Bolt manager, in which operators and collateral can be registered. The QR code will link you to all of our contracts, as well as some documentation if you're more interested in going in depth. But for ease of use, we'll also provide forge scripts that you can run to register batch register validators, register operators, and make sure that everything is working correctly. Now, for a schematic overview, so validators will register inside of the Bolt validators contract, and a associated operator, which is an address associated to some stake, just an EOA address, will register inside of the Bolt manager, providing some collateral through symbiotic or eigenlayer. Now, this key is linked to the validators because the validators will be signing their commitments with the associated private key of the operator address. What that means is that there will be a binding between any commitments being signed to the collateral, so that it can be slashed in case anything went wrong. And slashing, or at least challenging, is handled inside of the Bolt Challenger contract, which cryptographically can verify any challenges and verify any commitment breaches, and open and resolve those challenges. What I didn't discuss before was the Bolt RPC. The Bolt RPC will be initially at least sitting in between the users and the validators to provide sort of a translation layer between regular transactions and the commitments protocols. It will also be responsible for reading the beacon chain look ahead, checking all of the contracts, seeing who is actually registered, and then forwarding user transactions to the proposers in question. In terms of risks and rewards, with the caveat that there's no slashing or freezing on Holesky yet. So there will need to be slashing or freezing in case of commitment breaches eventually, to provide economic credibility, economic security to these commitments. Now, luckily, collateral at risk will be sort of limited and can be amortized over multiple validators, because if you register with 1,000 validators, you can reuse that collateral over multiple, over many of them, and you don't need to put up additional collateral for each registered validator. In terms of rewards, there will be increased yield from pre-confirmation tips. To make this more concrete, we're working on some economic models that we will distribute in the appropriate channels when that is done. Now, a bit about open questions and research. So let's start with open questions. One thing that we're currently working very hard on is demand-side go-to-market. What this entails is how can you onboard users to use these pre-confirmations with as little friction as possible. And the way we see it, we try to integrate Bolt with regular wallets, so that they can like imagine a checkbox that says, I want to send this transaction as a pre-confirmation. That will add a slight tip to the priority fee, and then the user clicks send, and it's basically done. This requires some more work, and we're trying to figure out what the best way to do this is, but that's definitely ongoing. Collateral requirements. Here, we're trying to strike a balance between economic security and capital efficiency. We have at least some initial models for this, but we'd like to work also potentially with external parties to get this sort of vetted. Decentralizing the Bolt RPC is also another open question. In the previous slide, I showed that the Bolt RPC is sort of sitting in between all of the users and all of the validators. You can imagine that can become a problem if it's a single point of failure. So we're trying to think of ways that we can decentralize the Bolt RPC. And finally, this is a bit of a tricky one, but pre-confirmed state management. As of now, if you're a user or you request a pre-confirmation, you're the only one that actually gets the update. So imagine sending a transfer to someone, but only you get the pre-confirmation and the other party isn't necessarily aware of that because they're tracking the main canonical chain. Then that is a bit of a problem. So we're trying to see how we can best sort of distribute the pre-confirmed state to all of the interested parties in the best way possible. In terms of research, we are also investigating execution pre-confirmations. We're calling them bold blocks. This is very much based on the work done by Nethermind and Switchboard on multi-round MEV boost. We're trying to see if that's something that can be done with bold. And we are also looking at other proposer commitments. Okay, cool. I think we have some time for Q&A. Don't want to, if not, no problem. And there's also a quick section about the purge proposal that we just posted on the Lido forum that I'll let Paul explain.
Yeah, it's just a quick response to kind of the purge proposal that you guys have. And yeah, we also have a Lido Alliance proposal out and a snapshot vote. And that's kind of it. You can go ahead and read up about it on the forum.
If there's any questions.
It doesn't look like there's any questions. If you meant kind of like to open up a Q&A for node operators, I only mostly see like simple EVT and CSM operators. And so I think if we want to get like curated operator like input, we will probably have to do some prodding explicitly for this.
Got it. Okay. In any case, thanks for letting us present.
I did have a really quick question around like the one-time signature that would need to be set up. If you can go back to the relevant slide, because I need to refresh my memory.
Right. Here we go.
Super, thank you. The one-time delegation, or at least the authentication of well, no, not the authentication of constraints, because the one-time delegation, can that be done offline and then like imported into Bolt somehow?
Yes, that can be done. Yes, exactly. So we will provide a separate tool that can request a signature from Dirk, Web3 Signer, or a ERC 2337, 2335 key store, and that can sign a one-time delegation. And that from that moment on, you can use that in the Bolt sidecar to sign all of your commitments.
Okay, got it. And so you would be able to attach like another like BLS key pair to Bolt, well, the delegated key pair in this case, and then that's the key pair that would be used going forward for constraint signing.
Exactly. Yeah. And you would transmit all of the delegations to the parties that need to know it, so the relays, and the builders, so they can authenticate incoming constraints.
Got it. Super. Thank you. I don't have any others. Sorry, go ahead.
I got a question, if that's okay. I was typing it, but I'm not that fast. As we're a bit CSM themed or home staker themed this call, like how viable is this running a Bolt sidecar for a home staker or a solo staker even? Is this something they can just run like MEV boost, which is pretty light, or does this have significant resource impact?
In terms of resources, it's actually not that heavy. The main problem I see is that as a solo staker, you can't really amortize your stake across multiple validators. So you might have, like, proportionally, you'll have to deposit a bit more. And if that's not a problem, then that's great. But also there is a question of slashing. Like currently, this is still also a bit of an open question, but there would need to be some form of slashing in the case of liveness faults, because otherwise we run into issues of bypassability. If a validator makes a commitment and then doesn't propose a block, there's no way to know whether that was done maliciously or whether they actually have network problems or something else that happened. And so we're leaning towards either freezing or reduced slashing for liveness faults, because otherwise it would be very easy to sort of bypass and the economic security would suffer. And I think with solo stakers, at least my staker, I've missed a couple of blocks. That would be a problem.
Well, so you are saying that if the pre-commitment was made and then for some reason the block was missed, this is a somewhat slashable event?
Yes, and in terms of how slashable and whether freezing is good enough, that's something that we're still figuring out. But the problem is that, yeah, if you don't do it, it's quite easy to bypass.
Yeah, okay, but from my perspective, I think it might be problematic not only for home stakers, I believe. So this is in general a very good question. I've never thought about it before, but I think the solution here might be somewhere in the middle. So it definitely should not be slashing. At the same time, I understand your concerns about possible attack vectors here. But yeah, that's a very interesting thing.
Yeah, I definitely should have added that to the open questions. Would love to talk more if you're interested.
To be clear, when you say slashing, you do not mean like actually slashing the validator in order to exit it. You just mean penalizing some sort of collateral or bond that the operator has put up.
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
penalizing
But
the bond themselves.
like in the case of solo stakers, you could like basically say that somebody subsidizes this collateral or bond, or that they can do it themselves, right? If they don't necessarily want to take on the capital risk of doing so.
You mean someone else providing collateral for them?
Yeah, sure. So for example, like a staking protocol like Lido, right, could decide that it'll set aside some sort of portion of funds to serve as collateral for solo stakers and say that like this is the collateral that any pre-confirmation protocol can use, like as the slashable collateral in case a solo staker misbehaves, or like we don't really know what happened, right? Maybe there's like a liveness issue, like you mentioned.
Right.
And then it's up to the protocol to like manage how the solo staker participating in the staking solution might be quote unquote penalized, but it doesn't necessarily have to rise to the same level as whatever economic security the pre-confirmation protocol would need to exact to ensure its own kind of sustainability. So basically the staking solution could subsidize a larger share of the penalty for specific subsets of operators to make it more approachable for them to use that system.
Yes, totally agreed. And that would also make it more capital efficient because you could use some of that collateral across multiple of your of the participants.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Okay, makes sense. Super exciting. And so you said you guys are aiming for Holesky. No, you're already on Holesky.
Yeah, the contracts are deployed on Holesky. We're still finalizing some onboarding guides and testing before actually starting to onboard others.
Awesome. And for those that want to like roll this on their own, you're publishing like full source code, or you're also releasing binaries for different systems?
Yeah, Bolt is completely open source, so I can go back to the contract side. If you scan this QR code, you'll be redirected to the Bolt repo on GitHub, and you can look at all of the code yourself.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonas and Paul. Okay, I think that basically a vote for CSM.
means is that there will be a binding between